a U.S. Olympian and NFL wide receiver. San Francisco 49ers wide receiver Marquise Goodwin. Growing up without a father left him without a script. First of all, Marquise, thank you for being here. I'm glad to have you. Amazed at your career. You are how old?
28 years old.
28 years old, a wide receiver for the 49ers.
Yes, sir.
An Olympian, had massive accomplishments. The 8-year-old you, would he have ever imagined that you would be where you are right now?
The 8-year-old me, I always knew that I would be here.
Okay.
And that's only because of my faith in God and my faith in myself and my self-belief and knowing how much work I had put in to get to this point. So ultimately I knew that I would be here, but I really didn't know, but I always thought that I would. Sports
became the vehicle that caused you to live out your dreams. For many young African-American boys, it is one of the few roads that are accessible to us quickly. We see it demonstrated enough that we say, you know, I can go that way. And if I go that way, I'm going to make it. Who were the people that inspired you?
Inspired me through sports? I would have to say my mom. I mean, she was really the biggest figure in my life at that time, being a single parent. And so just having her and seeing her around and how she moved. She was very athletic coming up. She was an All-American basketball player. She ran track as well. So did my biological father, who I didn't spend much time with growing up. But she was really the biggest influence in my life when it came to sports. She got me admitted into sports, and she definitely encouraged me with the belt on the sideline to try my hardest.
What do you think? Because there's a great debate amongst psychologists, whether it's nature or nurture that causes people to be excellent. Do you think, obviously, on both your father's side, your natural father's side, who didn't raise you, and your mother, who exemplified what sportsmanship and athleticism could be to you, and then demonstrated it with discipline, do you give more credit to the nature of DNA, or is it the way you were raised that produced you?
I think it might be a little bit of both. Obviously, you know, the nature of DNA plays a pivotal role in how you are blessed in a certain field or a certain thing that you do. Played a big part, but also, you know, just work, and having my mom being disciplinary and keeping me on track. I think that's ultimately what helped me.
This is almost a foolish question, but you hit a strong button for me when you start talking about work. Because regardless of your profession, if you don't have a strong work ethic, you're never going to be successful. To a large portion of people today, they're more concerned about comfort than accomplishment. Talk to me about work ethic and discipline.
Work ethic and discipline has definitely been a staple for me. I've always prided myself on my work ethic and me being disciplined. Not in the aspect of only, you know, sports specific, but discipline in life, whether it come to my diet, whether it come to me doing what I said I was going to do, just little things like that. So I think those are two things that really helped me grow into being a better athlete and a better human being as time went on. As I learned new things, I got around different people, I saw the way that they worked. I don't want to work like this guy, because you know, he say he's working, but to me that's not work. Or you know what I mean? I had to kind of compare and contrast, if you will, and try to figure out what worked best for me.
And so you go hard.
I go hard in the paint. At everything I do, I try my hardest.
You know, it is difficult to see that. In my life, my father was the one who gave me my work ethic. And it wasn't so much that he demanded it, as that he modeled it. He defined it. He was like you. He went hard. So when I got a certain age, at a very early age, I started attacking life, like we were in a fist fight because, my father jumped on work like he was going to knock it unconscious.
Yes, sir.
You didn't have that. You just had your mother. You could have copped out and said, my father wasn't there. He didn't raise me. That's my excuse to just be a crackhead, a pothead, a womanizer. You didn't do that. Why?
Growing up, I saw so many things that did not scream out success to me.
Mm-hmm.
In my mind, I always knew, or I always thought I knew what success looked like. And it didn't look like the everyday things that I saw. Guys on drugs, hanging out on the corner, you drinking 40s. All the typical things that you would see in environments that aren't really productive for or conducive for kids. So I saw that that's not the road that I want to go. So I had to choose. I had to be smarter than and above that and kind of figure out the way through that.
Let me share a little bit of my story. My father was drafted to the Cleveland Browns. He was very athletic. My brother was very athletic. I'm 7 years younger than my brother, so I was just a little kid in the way when they were doing all of that. By the time I got to the point that I might have entered into that game, my father got sick, so I never had the sports thing going. And then while I suspect that there might be some DNA in there that leans that way, I was totally opposite, very artistic, very cerebral, very dramatic, all that kind of stuff like that. And it took me a while to see the value in all of that, the value in what I had versus the value in what my father and my brother had. I had to find my own way into what my giftings were. I didn't really pay sports a lot of attention until I got to Dallas. And I was pastoring the Dallas Cowboys. And then all of a sudden, I'm pastoring Dion and Michael Irvin and Emmitt Smith and all of them just inundated me all at once. And now I'm at the Cowboys games, and now I'm in the locker rooms, and now I'm in the lineup when you come out of the locker rooms. And man, it was culture shock to me. I understood the work ethic, because in order to be good at anything, you have to have that kind of work ethic. I understood the tenacity of it. I understood the business of it. But you guys face a world full of big money, flashing lights, public relations down your throat, women lined up from here to Jerusalem of all types and descriptions. Very seldom do you see an athlete at your age be a family person. What does family mean to you?
Family means absolutely everything to me. If I had to give up my athletic career just so that my family would be closer, my family would be better, whatever that means, just to have better opportunities for my family, I would risk it all, because my family is the reason that I made it this far. The type of support that I've gotten from my family over the years, the type of love that I receive from them, can't put a price tag on it.
So you found your girl.
I did.
Yeah.
Yes.
And how did you know she was the one?
I knew she was the one because I made a decision. She was the first girl that I dated.
Wow.
Through high school and college. The very first girl that I'm like, hey, this is my girlfriend. And I knew it was it. She was totally different from any other girl that I'd approached. She wasn't attracted by the name, the accolades. She could care less about it. And it kind of made me feel uneasy, because I'm like, hold up, this too hard for me.
Yeah.
And I think just the nature of that ultimately drew me closer to her and made me want to pursue her.
So in interest of full disclosure, Morgan is in the room. I noticed when you brought her up, your eyes light up and you start grinning.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest giveaway for a guy who's in love. That's something you can't fake. gleaming eyes and a big wide tooth grin is something you just cannot fake. You can say the right thing, but the eyes don't lie.
Right.
When you talk about that and you talk about her and you talk about her career, and it sounds like she was more into who you are than what you did, how comforting was that for you?
So comforting for me. Having the type of relationship that I had with my mom and, you know, other women in my family and my past, just being able to find somebody like my wife, the greatest friend that I've ever had, the greatest everything, my biggest support system. I never thought that I could find somebody like her. Not saying it just because she's sitting here, but it's just the honest to God truth. And that's why, you know, she's Mrs. Goodwin now, because she supports me like nobody else has ever. She does so much more for me than anybody else could do. I mean, she does more than my team pays me checks, but the type of love and the amount of love that she gives me and the support equals a lot more than the dollar amount. So it's really hard to put it into words how much I care and love for my wife.
Describe, because 70% of my audience is going to be watching us as women. When a man says support from his woman, what does that mean?
To me, what it means for my wife to support me is to have my back, to have my side, to have my front, and as I do her. Just reciprocate the type of things that I give to her. When I have an athletic event, it's her athletic event as well in her mind, and that's how she projects it to me. Like, this is not just your event. This is not just your speaking engagement. This is not just you going to the store. Like, this is us. And we went from this to being this, which is ultimately why this whole marriage thing is very new to me, because I'm a first generation basically being married, and a first generation at everything.
Yeah.
And so having this opportunity.
So when you say first generation at everything, what does that mean?
First generation college student.
Okay.
Meaning I was the first to go to college. First generation college athlete, obviously competing in college. First generation as far as being married. My grandmother was married to my grandfather, but they separated. So now my wife and I and one of my cousins are the only two married couples in my whole family.
In your whole family?
In my whole family.
Wow.
So
so you're playing a part without a script. You didn't learn the lines as a little boy. You don't know what a father's supposed to do, what a husband's supposed to do. You're just kind of making it up as you go along.
Just learning along the way, making it up along as I go along.
I did something with our men here at the church. I had a Father's Day event, and I asked all the men to wear bow ties in honor of Father's Day. I thought it would be a cool thing to do, and we're going to wear our bow ties for Father's Day. And it struck panic through my church. Yeah, exactly what you just did, because a good 60% of them did not know how to tie a bow tie. You're pointing, you either.
I'm one of those guys. I do now, but
I was explaining to women that it struck pain, because for a man to say I don't know how to tie a tie is saying I didn't have a man to show me. So I've got guys from 50 to 40 to 30 to 20. It's not just the young guys. This is old men running around trying to figure out. And I'm in the mirror with people, and I'm showing them how to tie their tie. And guys are literally crying about being able to tie a tie, because there are little bitty things that you don't get when you don't get to be a father, when you don't have a father to show you that wouldn't even look like they were important to a woman, but they're reminders that you didn't get that, and it really makes you want to be to your children what you didn't get to be.
Yes, sir.
I saw the video clip. In fact, I'm going to play a clip right now, and your excitement and your wife's enthusiasm. I'm going to play the clip, and then we'll talk about it.
Yes, sir.
As you can see, I'm a pumpkin.
She is.
So today we are doing our gender reveal, and we're so excited. Can't wait.
So do you think it's gonna be a boy or a girl?
Boy, you know, mom instincts. I just know. Just like I knew last time. I just know.
I'm going with boy as well. I don't know. We'll have to see. You don't want a girl?
I want a girl. But I just,
Team
I don't
boy.
know.
We team
you know.
blue. But your nails painted pink
I'm
and
team
everything.
girl. I'm team girl, but I know my body. You know what I'm saying? So we're gonna find out though.
We definitely gonna find out.
Y'all ready? Oh my goodness.
Oh, can we get a kissing into the sunset?
Can we get this
All right.
before the sun go down?
All right.
Okay, here we go. Finding out the gender.
Okay.
Let's go.
Okay, I had to take my ring off.
We gotta get a
my ring.
countdown. We're gonna go from 5.
Where do I squeeze from the bottom or am I twisting it?
Look, 1.
Which part am I
You
twisting?
twist the top one this way. You twist the bottom one that way. Just follow the arrows.
Okay.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hold on.
Come on.
All right. 5. You ready?
Yes.
What you say it'll be?
Baby, just do it.
What do you
I
think
don't-
it's gonna be,
boy,
babe?
Boy.
Boy.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I told you.
Yeah.
I knew it was a boy. We're getting a boy.
You got a boy. Need that.
Woo, okay.
Need that.
That's so exciting. We got another baby boy.
Baby boy.
You guys, we're so excited. We're so excited. We're getting a baby boy. But that's not the only thing that we've been keeping from you this whole pregnancy. We're having twins. So we have another gender to reveal. Booyah.
Another one. Oh man, 2 ones. 2 little ones
2
running
good
around.
ones. 2.
2.
2. That's crazy.
You gotta pop it. Baby A is a boy. Yes.
Dang. I really want this baby to be a girl. Ready? You gotta give me a countdown.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Do it again.
Oh my God.
Scared. Okay,
What are
okay,
you
okay.
doing?
Okay, I'm ready. I'm ready.
What?
Come on, babe.
All right, 3, 2, 1.
We get it. 2 boys. Oh. MG.
Yes. Yes.
Baby!
Yes.
I knew we were getting 2.
You got 2
We're gonna have 2 rascals right around. Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Oh man, that is so
Hey,
crazy.
It's Goodwin season, baby. Congratulations.
Thank you, baby.
An exciting time for us today. We found out that we are having not 1, but 2 boys. How you feeling about it?
Shoot, I am blessed.
Definitely blessed. Definitely blessed. We look forward to welcoming our 2 baby boys into this world.
2 little kings or princes. Not princess, but princess.
Just leave it at little boys. We can't thank y'all enough for all y'all support. It means so much to us. Coming from last year, what we dealt with up until now, being pregnant with our 2 little boys. Hey man, God is good. Until next time.
There's a lot of things I want to say. First of all, your chemistry with your wife is obvious. You have that authentic kind of friendship, which I think is the core of any real relationship, and it really comes through. You have that. What my audience doesn't know and what the clip doesn't reveal is that you and your wife had lost a child, and so some of that exuberance is a result of this is a second opportunity to have that child. you're a winner, you're used to winning. But in this particular case, it didn't turn out the way you wanted it to. My book talks about crushing, and the people that I'm talking to earned their way into that chair. You're not in that chair because you're a wide receiver. You're not in that chair because you're an Olympian. You're not in that chair because you're happily married and you found your sweetheart. You're in that chair because you survived some stuff that could have destroyed you. Your wife survived some things that could have destroyed you. When the news came back, you'd lost the first child. You're obviously exhilarated about having the second child. And when the news came back that you lost the twins, I want to go into a spot that is a very serious spot and a very painful spot. But the only reason I would take you in that room, I'm a pastor. I understand how real that is, okay?
Yes, sir.
I have a daughter who struggles with fertility. I understand. I've rode the roller coaster ride with her. We've gotten the bad news and the pain. I held her in my arms and felt her tears on my chest. So this is not sensational for me. For me, it's a real deal. When you found out that yet again you had lost your sons after losing your first child, how did you feel?
It was just a tough moment, a vulnerable moment for me, especially coming from having to be a football player, be tough, being a young black man, and you seeing on TV, I never had a father to tell me it was okay to cry. Somebody didn't ever told me it was okay to show my emotions. And so going through something like that, it was tough for me. It still is, because it's hard to deal with, like the pain that you feel from it, because men feel it too. And it's really, really tough to see my wife go through something like that, and it's out of my control. It's like nothing I can do.
You know, there's so much I want to say to you. First, I want to hug you, and then I see the pain in your face. I think the biggest mistake we make in raising boys is teaching them that tough boys don't cry. Jesus wept, and you don't get any tougher than Jesus. He was God, and yet he comes to the graveside of Lazarus, and he meets Mary and Martha, and he weeps with them, all while knowing he was going to raise Lazarus from the dead. He still joined into solidarity in that moment of pain. I don't know you, so I'm just guessing. The disappointment would be there for anybody. But when you didn't have a father, you got a score to settle. And as a man, you got a score to settle. You want to give this kid everything you didn't get. It's kind of revenge. And it's a deeper level. And the reason I bring that out is because there are women out there who don't think that men care. And there are some men out there who don't care. Help me make them believe in us again, that there are still some men who really do care about kids, whether it happened or not, that it is important, that we do have a heart, and that we are in it with them, because there are so many women who think we have no heart at all.
I know I talk a lot about just being a young black man, because that's what I am. It's hard to get a mass of women to really appreciate, like, when a guy does care, but not for my wife. She definitely appreciates that and acknowledges it. But men do care. I mean, I want a kid probably just as bad as any woman in the world. Just to share that experience with my wife, to grow my family, and just to ultimately raise a boy up to a man how I feel and how I believe a man should be. Just so I can mold him and do the things that my father didn't get the chance to do with me. And I'm not even talking about sports, throwing me to football. I'm talking about teaching me how to tie a tie.
Right.
Teaching me how to speak to a man and look him in his eyes when I'm talking to him. You know? Some of the things that we may take for granted each day and that we may overlook. But, I was talking to one of my coaches recently about a kid that he was struggling with at school, and that I'm starting to try to mentor, and they had kind of gave up on him. But I just told him, just the situations that he's dealing with at home is probably why it's hard for him to cope with, at school, and he's dealing with a lot of things and a lot of things he didn't get to learn. He goes from, and when I'm talking about him, I'm talking about myself too. I was in the same predicament. Single parent mom, 3 younger sisters. He has younger sisters, and he comes from being the man at home at 15 until I go to school, and then I'm having to listen to my coach or somebody yelling at me or teachers yelling at me after I just came from being the man. And so it's like a complex that it's hard to kind of.
You don't know who you are. You're lost.
Exactly, and but just going back off to your question, what you was asking about, men caring, and men care. We care a lot.
We care an awful lot. I like to say we have he emotions. We grieve differently, but we grieve equally. Sometimes I think it is more intense for us because we don't always know how to express that grief. How do you think your grief differs from your wife's grief, which is all hail and respect and honor to a woman who has a person in their body? I think they have a relationship with the baby that we'll never know anything about. I learned that from my own wife. It's a whole different thing. But just because we don't have the baby on the inside doesn't mean that we don't have the fantasies and the feelings and the ideas and the cravings that they're having. I don't know why we just, maybe it's our excuse to eat crazy stuff. But it's one thing to be tough on the field. It's one thing to be tough on the weight machine. It's one thing to be tough running around the field or doing push-ups or sit-ups. But this required inner toughness. When you look at the pain you felt, how was it different from your wife, and how did you handle it?
The pain different from my wife, I think. I was more angry, but I was more content with the situation because I knew God had handled it. As my wife, she was really upset. She was angry. She was hurt, and she questioned a lot why things happen. And I think that's where we differed, because I don't think I questioned it because my faith, and I think it's my job to help direct my wife and help show her how I make it through situations like that. We all handle things differently. But
so why were you angry? What does that anger, what does that mean?
I was angry, not with God, but because I wanted so bad to prove to myself, prove to my family, people who have seen me raised. I was homeless at 14. I moved out at 14, and I moved around a lot. It's another story. But just, I wanted to prove to everybody that, even with me being without for so long, that I still could raise a boy up to be a man the right way. I still could be a father. Stability, something that I never had. I mean, I haven't been stable, until I got to the NFL. you know, and yeah.
You're grieving, she's grieving. I understand very well from a male perspective how we love. I can provide for you. You know, I can take care of you. I got somebody. You know, I can give you stability. I can give you all the things I craved. I can show you how to tie a bow tie. That's where we enter into it. Their grief is off the Richter scale. A piece of them. They lost a piece of them, a part of them. I have so much respect for women and the role they play. And sometimes a woman hurts in a place that is hard to heal. I did, when my wife was grieving over the loss of her mother, I did like dumb stuff. I took her on vacation. I tried to distract her. I thought if I took her on vacation, maybe she wouldn't notice that she lost her mother. You know how guys do dumb stuff trying to be good to you?
I'm right there with you.
Talk to me about struggling to comfort her while you're hurting yourself. What do you think you did right? What do you think you did wrong?
It's a constant struggle. I'll tell you all the things I did wrong because I don't even know if I did anything right. I think I could have been, I don't know what the word I'm looking for, maybe you could help me, not sensitive, but I could have approached it in a more sensitive manner because I was so aggressive just because of my anger. And I wasn't angry with her at all, and I never exuded that type of energy towards her.
No, but anger is the one emotion that we are given permission to feel. So everything turns into anger. If I want to cry, I get angry. If I want to say something soft, I get angry because anger is an emotion for which men are rewarded, and it's acceptable and it's considered masculine. It's okay to be angry. Right. But isn't it true that beneath that anger is just really just hurt?
So much hurt. I just wish that the stigma of men crying is soft, because sometimes I need to cry. That's all I need to do sometimes, and I won't be angry. Like I've held back so many tears over my 28-year period that sometimes it can get built up. I bottle it in, and it's not like I talk to a therapist every week. You know, my wife is my therapist. She's the closest thing I have to it because she listens to me a lot, and so during that time where she's hurting and I'm hurting, and she was, you know, feeding off on me and I'm feeding off on her, I think I probably should have listened to her a little more than tell her how I felt, and just sit back and watch her move, and just supported her even more. I definitely support her 100%, but just give her a little more of everything. It was during the season, you know, our second time around. So I'm still trying to worry about work, and my mind is everywhere. I don't know where to. Nobody really sat me down and said, "Hey, son, be there for Mo.
Stop everything. This is a crisis. You missed the signals. You ran through the red light. You kept on going to work." Sometimes work is how we dodge the pain. Yeah. I totally get it. You know, I totally get it. So we throw ourselves into our work, which reads to them like we don't care. And they don't know that we're going through the same thing they're going through. We're just hiding it behind the work, and work becomes our drug of choice. My book is about that, really. It's about how crushing pushes us forward. And sometimes I would imagine you were more aggressive on the field. You were more relentless and more tenacious. But beneath it all, the thing that is fueling you forward is the pain of what you lost.
Yes, sir.
How did it affect your game?
Exactly like you said. The first time around, in 2017, when we lost our first child, it happened at 3, 4 that morning, and I had to leave from the hospital at 8 o'clock to make it to my game. And that was hard. I mean, because I didn't want to leave the hospital. My wife told me, baby, go to the game. You got people that need you out there. Do this for baby Goodwin, you know, and that was all the fire that I needed. This year was a little different. The situation was different. I was in Tampa, Florida, getting ready to play against the Buccaneers, and my wife called me, and she was just worried about a few complications that she was having. And so immediately I told my team that I needed to hop on a plane and leave. And, you know, just going back and just being there through the whole process, you know, we ended up losing our 2 baby boys. A week went by, I didn't play. Another week went by, I didn't play. Decided to go back. And just being there at the facility, I think this time around, it was not as easy for me to get on the field. Mm-hmm. Because I felt like, although I played the year before during that same situation, mm-hmm. I don't think I should have went and played. Mm-hmm. I should have stayed back and supported my wife and just been there, forget about the football. But I got so wrapped up in that world, you know, the fans, my coaches, who I'm gonna let down. I really shouldn't even thought about anybody else except my wife. And the same for her. I ain't gonna tell her how to think, mm-hmm. but just in that situation, I can't even visualize like what even made her wanna let me go out there and play mm-hmm. during that time. So, I mean, it just speaks of her character and how strong she is, and how much she loves me and cares about me in a time of need, in the time that she needed me probably more than any time in the world. She told me to go. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that just speaks of how high character and how strong she is.
You know, being a man doesn't come with a manual. And there have been moments in my life that I didn't know how I was supposed to respond to any given situation. I had a father, but he got sick when I was 10. He died when I was 16. So I didn't get to see the full model of how that works out. You couldn't pick up the phone and call your dad and say, what should I do? You had to just figure it out as you went. You're in a situation with a woman who is grieving differently, and you don't want to blow this, and you don't want to mess it up, and you don't want to do it wrong. And so the second time around, you say, I'm not going to run out on the field as quickly. Do you feel more effective connecting with her the second time? Or are you still frustrated that you know, we like to fix everything.
Mr. Fix It.
Yeah, we like to fix everything. You know, you give me a problem, I'm going to fix it. We fixing it is therapeutic.
Yeah.
And it makes your chest swell up. You know, I got this. I got this. You couldn't fix this.
No chance.
You just had to go through it with her. What did you learn?
I learned that I am not in control of a lot of things. And this process definitely helped me in my approach to life. I've been in a bubble for some years now because I've been Mr. Fix It for my family. I fixed us not having money. Mm-hmm. I fixed my mom not having a home and being on Section 8 housing, mm-hmm. governmental funding. I fixed going to school, mm-hmm. you know, being a first generation college student. So many things that I fixed in my life, and I've had, you know, a hand in doing things, obviously God at the steering wheel. Mm-hmm. But I always thought that if I moved a certain way, if I did a certain thing, that I could keep this from happening, or I could help this to happen. And with this situation, it just helped me realize how I'm just another drop in the ocean. Mm-hmm. Like, it's nothing I could do, so I gotta just follow God's lead and go on about my business.
You know, it's a funny thing, and I'm gonna try this out on you, and you tell me if it was your conclusion. sometimes when we diminish in our superhero, we become more connectable as a human, more relatable, more sensitive, more relevant. When we take off the boots and the cape and we can't fix it, and we run into a crushing moment, which is really our kryptonite, we find out that being Clark Kent is exactly what was needed. How do you feel like you are closer to her now than you were before?
Emotionally, I feel like I've been able to attain that level that I need to come down to, especially during times like these, to be softer, to be more gentle, to approach her with more humility, and not think like I'm the man, or I'll help fix this situation, or I can do this, like I'm this great, whatever. It really humbled me. And I've always been humble, approached everything with humility, like I'm all about it. But sometimes, you get enough pats on the back and people telling you how great you are, you believe it a little bit.
Yeah.
And this definitely helped me become more relatable, more down to earth, as some people would term it. And just being able to come down and to be more connected with my wife on that level has definitely helped, I think. Being able to listen more, learning from her, letting her, just direct and lead on a lot of things, because she's experienced differently within the same circumstances. So definitely feel more connected now.
I was born in between two dead babies. The one my mother had before me died, and the one my mother had after me died. And I was the child that survived. Some of the intensity that she placed into raising me was a result of having lost two children around me. By God's design, that extra energy as a mother helped to prepare me for a life that none of us could have imagined. She parented me as if I were the three and I was only the one. But he was going to do things in my life that were exceptional. In the moment of her grief, it didn't make sense. It's only later that when you look back in retrospect, that you begin to understand, if this hadn't happened, that hadn't happened. If this hadn't happened, that hadn't happened. And faith is what keeps us while we wait, and learn that all things work together for good, even when all things are not good. When you pray at night, what do you pray for?
I pray for strength. I pray for guidance. Obviously, I pray for God to continue to bless me with the things that He's given me. And I just pray to see another day.
When you pray for her, what do you pray for?
I pray for her spiritual guidance, her growth, and anything that she has going on coming up that week, or whatever she has going on in her life at that moment.
How did you keep your faith in God through losing three children? And see, people have to understand, when a winner loses, it is more devastating, because everything else you do in life is built around winning. Going to school was winning. The Olympics was winning. Playing for the 49ers is winning. So we're scorekeepers. We win. I scored. I made it. I did. I won. So devastation, the devastation of losing, some guys never recover from it. Whether it's the loss of a child, or the loss of their career, or the loss of their spouse, some people watching us never recover, much less hold on to their faith. How did you keep your faith while you lost something that was so very important to you?
My faith probably means more to me than anything in this world, and I say probably it does, because it's really the only thing that has kept me going. It's the only thing that allowed me to meet my wife, to trust my wife, to allow her to be a part of my life and me to be a part of hers. Going through so much since I was a young boy, life was tough. Like I mentioned, being homeless and having to move around, I had to find something to keep me off the streets, to keep me in a positive mindset. And so when I finally gave my life to God at 14, it really changed my way of thinking and my approach on life. And my life went from what it seemed like it was going on a downward slope to when I gave my life over to God, I started to see a change. Mm-hmm. And I started to see a rise in my life, not because I was getting more awards, not because I was getting more girls to like me, not you know what I mean? It's because I was gaining so much in my spiritual that it was helping me and propelling me to where I ultimately said that I wanted to be in life. I always said that I wanted to be an Olympian. I always said that I wanted to play in the NFL. And those things I think were accomplished because I had extreme faith.
You said you wanted to be an Olympian, you wanted to be a champion, you wanted to be in the NFL. But you said that being homeless, to see where you are now, juxtaposed against where you started, is a story all by itself. I met Tyler Perry right when he was starting to lift off, right out of the car, living in the car. And he'd hit his first play, and he was starting to pull himself up. Fast forward, he's now a worldwide household name. We don't get together often, but I happened to be in the city, and he invited me over to his house. I walked into his house, if you want to call it a house. I walked into this metropolis that he calls a house. And I started crying. I stood in the foyer and started crying. Because I was looking at the house, but I was seeing the car. I was seeing all your stuff jammed up in the back of a car, sleeping uncomfortably and a little bit scared and cautiously, because I understand what it is to be homeless. Do you ever look at your life now, in spite of the storms we talk about, and see from being homeless to where you are right now and just think, OMG.
Every single day.
Really?
It's a unique situation. I ended up getting taken in by my best friend, who happens to be a white guy, and his family. And they took me in and gave me a roof over my head, had my first bed since, I could remember, my own room. And that was my junior year of high school. And but I said that to say he's my trainer full time now. Okay. So I see him every day. So we sit back and we just think about those memories. And I actually went to my high school yesterday, Rowlett. I went to Rowlett High School.
Oh, really?
And we drove over there and we're just driving through the city and showing him, hey, this is the road that I ran away. Like when I ran away, I ran down this road. And he was like, you ran that far? Like, and just, rekindling those old moments and those memories, it really makes me think like, dang, I came from that to look where I am now. Despite all of the negativity that I had to face and all the obstacles that I had to face, God still brought me to where I ultimately said that I wanted to be.
Yeah, you got there.
I got here.
Yeah. That feeling, that look on your face, that amazing moment, that dreams are possible, that they do come true, and there's a certain amount of gratitude. I often say that tenacity will get you there, consistency will keep you there, and gratitude will give you more of what's there. The real, as if you're not tenacious, you wouldn't have got there. Okay, if you were consistent, You won't stay there because there's some little boy standing right outside right now waiting to take your place every day. So you have to deliver every day, and the pressure to be at your A game every day has to be consistent. You can't be spasmodic and be you. You have to be consistent.
Yes, sir.
But if you are tenacious and if you are consistent and you're not grateful, you still lose all of it, because gratitude is what gives you more of what's there. Do you agree with that?
I totally agree, 100%.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And you have that grateful look in your eye. I'm going to do something. I'm going to put you on the spot.
Okay.
Okay. I'm going to put you on the spot. I don't know why I'm going to do this. So I'm going to flip the switch and ask you to ask me the questions.
Okay.
Okay. So since you didn't grow up with the father and you didn't grow up in a stable situation, and since you've had to steer your own path and you've had to withstand all kinds of storms, there's a lot of conversations you didn't get to have, a lot of questions you never got to ask, a lot of things you never got to say. And for some reason, I want to let you practice on me. Okay? So whether it's about life or whether it's about me or whether it's about you, I don't care what it is. You're the interviewer, I'm the interviewee.
My bad. You the first person that, thought to give me that op.
Wow. Wow.
I've dealt with a lot of people. My wife could tell you I struggle with the whole father thing. Like, it's like a complex for me. So, yeah, I appreciate it.
The weird thing is, all while I'm interviewing you, I'm hearing a voice in my head say, let him ask you. Let him talk to you.
Okay. How often do you tell your boys that you love?
A lot. I grew up hugging them a lot and kiss them. And now my youngest, who's taller than me, kisses me on the top of my head. I think in part just to let me know that he's taller than me. I have a son in the other room right now. I tried to make sure that they were okay and to give them what they didn't have, and I've tried to be verbal about loving them. I haven't been a perfect father. Part of the best thing that you can give a son is an imperfect father, because learning how to love an imperfect father helps you to learn how to love you. So you don't have to be perfect. You have to be there. I found out that kids have the elasticity to see your imperfections and love you anyway, and they need to see your imperfections to figure out that they are worth loving with their imperfections. I think that family is the gymnasium that love works out in. So it's the toughest thing you ever do. It's hard as all get out. You're never going to get it right, but that's what gyms are made for. And you keep working at it, and you keep pulling at it. And that's how I did it.
Appreciate that. It's really, my father never told me he loved me. So, like, I think that's probably why I never heard really my father, I never saw him and my mom in the relationship together, my biological father. So I never seen how they worked. Mm-hmm. But I've had the opportunity to be around other men, mm-hmm. and just, kind of pick and choose where I want things, what I see would fit in my life, what wouldn't. What are some things that you see that makes a successful marriage, and what makes a successful father? Or what does a father who's doing his job look like to you?
Communication is big for marriage. If you just keep talking, you can talk your way through anything. But you can't just talk from a place of your emotions. You have to be solution oriented when you talk, rather than being right, proving who's right. It don't matter who's right. You just got to talk through it, and it's hard to keep talking when you're a man. It is very hard to talk about how you feel and to get that out and to verbalize it. But whatever you have to do, write a note, send a text, send a pigeon, keep talking. You don't have to be right, but you need to be verbal. It's hard to be present. It's hard to be present. It's not hard to come home. You're going to come home. It's hard to be home when you're home. It's hard to get your mind off of what happened that day and what you got to do tomorrow and what's going on in your life, because we are so driven to provide, especially when you come from where you came from, because you got that nightmare of being broke again chasing you. And so you can be so busy focused on trying to make sure everything comes together that you're there, but you're not really there. And so you have to really talk to yourself a lot to be present in the moment. That's kind of what that looks like. When it comes to what a father-son relationship grows to be is honesty. It's not honest at first. It's discipline at first, and structure and order and rules, and it's time to go to bed. And you don't get to show your kids who you are until they're old enough to handle it. But somewhere along the way, you cease to be so much father, sons, and finally become friends. And you have boy talk on another level, which is absolutely amazing. That is absolutely amazing.
I can imagine.
You see what I'm saying? If you were my son, I would be really concerned that you were building for the future, that you had a strategy for your success, that you saw beyond the goalposts, that you weren't so busy being successful on the field that you didn't understand that the field is not real, that life exists outside of the parameters of what you do. So surrounding yourself with people who are smart about finances and smart about investments and smart about where you're going next needs to be what you're thinking now. That strategy is very, very important. There is an old man hiding inside of you who is depending on you to be smart, because his survival depends on your next decisions. And you can't take care of him, the one who's going to be aching and swollen and had surgeries and no longer be physical or vibrant or maybe not even sexy. You got to get ready for him now so that he can take care of the old woman that's going to be sitting beside him. Think down the road, not just right now in the moment. That's very important. Whoever you're around, that's who you become. Surround yourself with people that are taller than you in thought and wider than you in vision. Walk in the rooms where you feel stupid and grow into the room. Don't always be in rooms where you're the biggest guy in the room so your ego can be stroked. Walk into a room where you don't know what the heck they're talking about and have the humility to ask questions so you can keep growing as a person and be interesting as an individual. And you've already done something that I thought was fascinating. You travel a lot. Most people who come from nothing and get money, they buy a bunch of cars and a bunch of clothes, but they don't go anywhere, they don't see anything. Seeing the world puts everything in perspective. See the world, because when you see the creation, you perceive the creator. There's no way you can stand and look at a glacier in Alaska and not be awed at the God who lets it float, or stand in the noise of a waterfall cascading down a hill in Hawaii and know that that waterfall is falling with such force that it creates electricity, and not discover some essence of God. There's no way you can be in the bush in Kenya or Nigeria or Congo and not smell your ancestors and understand that you are not a mistake and you're not the derivative of a slave. That you come from a heritage and a reality that is significant, that tell your children that their plants have roots and their roots have soil and that the soil is rich. I'll stop there because I could go at you for more and more. But if you got something else you want to ask me,
I got one more question.
throw it at me.
And it's something that I struggle with, and it's actually I've lost a lot of support from it, but I protested. I took a knee in solidarity to, for my sister's dad, biological father. He was in my life for the first few years of my life, and he was wrongly convicted for a murder, and so that's why I kneel, just for situations like that to help bring awareness. And I lost a lot of support, like from coaches, men that have been played a pivotal role in my life. For whatever reason, they didn't agree with it. So I wanted to ask you, and regardless if we put this on the interview or not, I just want your honest opinion about it. How do you feel about it? Because it was to the point I couldn't protest this year because of the safety of my wife being at the games in the stands, and just for her safety, I couldn't voice, what I wanted to do.
Never cry over what's already been done. You can't change it. You did it. Whether it's right or wrong, you found a way to express yourself. It's over. Some people are going to go out of your life anyway, because some people are in your life as scaffolding. They're there till the building is erected. Don't grieve when they're gone. It's a sign that you can stand on your own. What you do in the future is very important, and hear me very clearly. There are thousands of ways to protest. Never be limited to just one. There are thousands of ways to let your voice be heard, and only in that split-second moment will you know which one to choose. And you have to have the wisdom to understand from your position what is more strategic, to make a statement in a moment or make a statement for a lifetime. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Your success is protest. Your survival is protest. The way you go out and speak and talk and tell your story and challenge the thinking of the people who turned against you is protest. Forgive them for not understanding. They've never had to be understanding. He who is in control has never had to be understanding of that which you control. That happens in life. People come, people go. The older you get, the more you begin to understand who you are, irrespective of what they think. It is the most painful when they were once supportive and they have helped you in some way. But just because they help you don't mean they own you. Teach them. And if they're important to you, go back and talk to them. Face to face. Because over social media and over he say, she say, people say all kinds of stuff. But if you love them and if they're important to you, meet them face to face. Look them straight in the eye. You have a good heart and a good head and you're articulate. And you don't always have to speak through your knee. you can speak through your mouth to the people you care about and help them to understand that being benevolent toward us does not necessarily make you understand what it's like to be one of us. And that can only come through a conversation. And I'm not against kneeling, it's a sign. But you don't have to use sign language to people you can talk to.
Yes, sir.
Does that make sense?
Total sense.
Good deal.
Yes, sir.
This has been an amazing interview.
Yes,
I
sir.
hope you enjoyed it too.
Yes, sir, I did. Appreciate you.
Thank you. You are everything I wrote about.
Yes, sir.
Turning pressure into power, succeeding over adversity, allowing the crushings of your life to be the pushings of your life that push you forward. And if I never, ever see you again, keep going.
You'll see me again.
I look forward to it.
Yes, sir.
God bless you.
God bless you too.
You got it.
Thank you, man.
Anytime.